Hey guys, welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Miller if you like. Just want to get right into some of the observations from Dallas Cowboys camp. So, normally when we're doing this, if you've noticed over my first few episodes, I don't really like to talk about the major players in camp. So, you don't really hear me go, Micah Parsons looked awesome today because it's Micah Parsons. I don't think that's really analysis. Or Dak Prescott looked great today. Or Zach Martin is blocking people. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. Of course, these people are blocking people and look great. These are the best players on your team. Now, with that being said, man, Jalen Tolbert today was pretty stand out. I mean, he had I'm thinking it was a 9 route. I'm pretty sure it was a go route on the outside, and he just got wide open. Now, a lot of these drills that I saw them running today were 7-on-7, and it looked like the situation was, the quarterback drops back no matter who it was, and gets to his back foot. Nothing's open. Containment breaks. Now he has to scramble to whatever side he decides and make a play based on that. So a lot of times in the NFL, you'll see late in the game, long third downs, no matter who the quarterback is, they'll drop back and a defensive lineman will get free and they have to roll out to their right or spin back to their non-throwing hand and kind of buy another second to a second and a half for players to get open. So that's what you call the scramble drill. Players will run their normal assigned routes, whether it's a 9 route, a comeback, a drag, a fade, cross, deep post, whatever have you. And the defensive players will now have to work with those offensive players on the fly. The offensive players get a little bit more creative freedom to take the route where it goes, because once their route's over, it's at the top, ball hasn't come out, they're turning and looking for the ball, they see the quarterback rolling, now everybody's like, scatter, right? Scatter. It's something that's normally very hard to prepare for. And most of the drills were that, but this one was not that. Dak Prescott hit his back foot on the back of his drop and just dropped the ball beautifully to Jalen Tolbert, who maybe had about 2 yards of separation. And Dak had several throws like that today. There was one to Brandon Cooks in the back of the end zone. And one of the things I noticed about Brandon Cooks on this particular throw is he waited to the very last second to put his hands up, which is always awesome because a lot of DBs, when their back is turned to the ball, they'll kind of read the wide receiver's eyes. Now, if the wide receivers are wearing visors, kind of helps the wide receiver out a little bit. Brandon Cooks wears a visor. So the second thing you're taught to read, at least I was when I played football, was the receiver's hands. When you see the receiver's hands start to go up for the ball, even if your back is turned, now you know you can put your hand up and try to get it right into the basket of the wide receiver, and you can knock the ball out in a lot of cases. In the NFL, in most cases, you can knock the ball out, cause an incompletion. Brandon Cooks is very good with late hands. In addition to everything we know about Brandon Cooks, which is his speed, his route running, the ability to play on the outside, the ability to play on the slot, those are all things we know. He can take a short pass and make it a touchdown. He can take a deep pass and run by everyone. He has 4.33 speed. So we know all that stuff about Brandon Cooks. What I was impressed with was his late hands. On that play from Dak Prescott to the back right of the end zone in practice, even though it was open, even though Dak Prescott put it pretty much only where Brandon Cooks could get the ball, no one else, Brandon Cooks had very late hands to the catch. And I think some of these other receivers on our team should be picking his brain for things like that, because that is the hardest thing. If a DB's back is turned and he can't get a look on your eyes and you have late hands to the catch, and by late hands I mean a lot of times when guys turn and run their route, right, they get their hands out in front of them, when they know the ball is coming, so that they can be prepared for the catch. You don't want to necessarily be a body catcher, so you make your break, you get to the top of the route, you drop your hips, right? If you're smart, you lean on the DB, so that he doesn't know what's going on. And then you make your break and you come out of your break with your hands up so that the quarterback can see a nice, big, wide target for him to throw the ball. You can get the ball, get your hands out, catch it, boom, keep going, or get down and get the first down, whatever may have you. This is kind of, like I said, when I was playing football, these are the type of things you do to present yourself for the quarterback. Now, in the NFL, the margin of error is so small that if you can keep your hands in the same way that you do when you're running your route the entire time, and you can have as little cues as possible for the DBs to go off. So when everybody tells you, hey, this person is an awesome route runner, it's a buzzword, right? But what really goes into that? An awesome route runner runs their route at the same speed no matter what. Their footwork is very similar no matter what route they're running. I talk a lot about hips dropping because most time when guys are about to break in out towards the middle, you'll see their hips slightly drop because they're going to turn. So the defensive back is looking for those cues, and they see the hips drop, and they know, oh man, it's about to turn this way or that way. Your weight naturally shifts, right? If you're going to break left, if you're going to break right, your hips drop, your weight naturally shifts one way or the other. You give cues to where you're going to go. So the defensive backs are looking at all these different things. So if you can have late hands, if you can have minimal hip dropping, and you can run your route at the same speed no matter where you're going. So if I'm going to run a 9 route and I'm going to run right by you, it's the same speed as if I'm going to run a slant. It's the same speed as if I'm going to run a flag. It's the same speed as if I'm going to run a comeback route. I want you to think, no matter what, when I get to this top of the break, you have no idea what I'm doing. Brandon Cooks, man, awesome job at this stuff. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit more insight into that. Also noticed Mazi Smith today, not as good of a day as I've seen in days past. So most of these days he's been commanding double teams. He's been getting off the ball well. He's been allowing the linebackers to kind of fly around. And some of the team drills that I saw today, Mazi Smith, and it's been his knock since he's gotten here, but very late off the ball. Like in most of the snaps I saw, he was the last person off the ball. Now, this is the first day that I've seen Mazi have this issue, but we are starting to get to the point in camp where you get tired, where all the repetitions start to wear on you. So a lot of times when we get tired, especially when it comes to things like football practice, this is why the coaches coach everybody so hard, because when you get tired, you revert back to all of your bad habits. You revert back to who you are. Now, some people are insanely athletic, right? Some people are insanely strong. So when they get tired, they revert back to some of those similar traits. The great thing about being a veteran, once you're 3, 4, 5 years in the league and you've established yourself, everything is so ingrained in you that once you get tired, you revert back to the habits that you've built. So getting off the ball or running the correct routes or rushing, with your pad level low. Those are all things that you do naturally because it's repetition, it's routine, your muscle memory. You're not even thinking about it anymore. So Mazi is only in year 2, so we're not going to necessarily, bash him for this. But I did notice today he reverted back to getting off the ball late, having high pad level, having a little bit lower of a motor. Now, some of that has to do with, it looked like in the team drills today, they didn't necessarily want, the defensive lineman up the middle going like crazy hard. Now, some of them they did, because I saw a snap where Mazi was not necessarily laid off the ball, but Cooper Beebe, he got up in him. You know what I'm saying? And Cooper Beebe's power was very evident. And being powerful against a guy like Mazi Smith, kudos to you, man. That's the stuff we like to see. So I'd like to see Mazi a little more consistent even when he's tired. But we are getting into the dog days of training camp. I'm glad they're out in Oxnard, California, practicing in 70-degree weather. It allows you to get a lot of great work in instead of being in Texas and being over 100 degrees again. So, but I do get that all the days in a row and all the consistent drills and the consistent teamwork and being up early in the morning and getting to bed late at night and, maybe getting one day off. And now you're getting into pads consistently. So having those pads on you all the time, day after day, this is not like the type of stuff they do in the regular season. When we get to the regular season, you'll hear me talk about it when we get there. A lot of times they're in shells and helmets or helmets only, maybe, 14 to 12 padded practices over the course of 17 weeks. So you're going certain weeks where you're not having any practices in pads. You're not doing any of that hardcore hitting. But now it's training camp. They're trying to build you up. So I understand that we could be getting to the point where some of these players, especially at the position Mozzie plays, we talk about a lot of the times the wide receivers and the running backs are having a car crash every single time they hit each other. Well, these defensive and offensive linemen, when they get into pads, they don't get this work consistently throughout the offseason. So you go through a little bit of having to get your second win. But with that said, this was the first day where, even though I'm one of those people that I'm not looking to pile on a player like Mozzie Smith, this was the lackadaisical day. So like to see him pick it up a little bit. We'll see how he bounces back. Trey Lance today, another good day, man. He had some great throws to the outside. He looked decisive. He looked like he had a lot of good velocity on the football. There were a couple completions to the outside that he did well. There was a completion on the deep ball to the outside. So, again, people, just like Mozzie Smith, Trey Lance has been one that there have been certain podcasters and certain media members that want to make sure that they pile on Trey Lance as much as possible. I don't know if they're, a Cowboys fan as much as maybe a Dak Prescott fan, and it's okay to be both. You can be a Cowboys fan and be a Dak Prescott fan. Because you said Trey Lance did good today, it doesn't mean that Dak Prescott didn't do good today. I love the Cowboys, right? I want to see all 90 players succeed. Whether it's QB1, QB2, QB3, RB1, RB2, RB3, whoever it is, I want to see them all succeed. Trey Lance had a nice day today. He had some great completions, whether it was over the middle, whether it was outside the numbers, whether it was short, whether it was deep. The problem that I had with him today was there was a nice play that the Cowboys had ran, and he had to do the same thing that the other quarterbacks are doing. Buy time, buy time, buy time. Okay, maybe I have to scramble to my left. Maybe I have to scramble to my right and I have to get the ball out. But instead of getting the ball out, he just ran out of bounds. So if we're in a late game situation, if there's plenty of time left on the clock and, you get out of bounds, it's not the worst thing. You didn't take a sack. You didn't have a turnover. Fine, and when he got out of bounds, it was pretty much right at the line of scrimmage, so he didn't even take a loss. But I want to see him throw that ball. He looked like it was well covered, right? But this is training camp. You're going to have people when you're a player like Trey Lance and everybody's looking for different things from you. You're going to have people that chart your interceptions, that chart your completions, that say, hey, you had 2 interceptions today in practice. You suck. Or say you had 3 touchdowns today in practice. You're awesome. Want to see him be more decisive. Want to see him throw the ball there instead of running out of bounds and kind of keeping the offense moving, so to speak, but not really making a productive play. I've watched Tyron Billy Johnson. He's been looking awesome. And I've watched Jalen Tolbert. He's been looking great. I've watched Kevontae Turpin. He's been looking good. You want to kind of give some of these receivers a chance and see what these 50-50 balls might look like in a game-like scenario. So even if he threw it and it was intercepted or it was high and it fell incomplete, and yes, he's worrying about people like me or other podcasters you might watch saying, oh, here goes Trey Lance, can't make the completion, threw an ugly ball to the outside. But in his mindset, that's not something he should be worried about. It's all to getting better. And honestly, if he does have to come into a game this season and the game is in the balance and he has to figure out whether or not he can make this completion late in the game, there's a scramble drill that he has to do, and he has to throw the ball down the field late in the game, he's got to build up some of that rapport with receivers that he might be able to trust, throwing the ball and knowing, hey, I got to give my guy a chance to make the play because there's no tomorrow, and he might be able to make the play. So in the future, I would like to see him make that pass, but I'm not going to knock him too much for doing that. Yeah, too much today. Some of the other standouts today, Peyton Hendershot made a couple of good grabs. John Stevenson made a couple of good grabs. Of course, Jason Ferguson made a couple of good grabs. Dak Prescott had a completion to him over the middle for a touchdown where he kind of got inside of number 14, not Racy McMath, our linebacker boy from last year. His name's escaping me right now, but he ran a route up the middle towards the end zone and kind of broke inside. He kind of did the old Jason Witten, lean on you a little bit, at the top of the route, and then take it inside where the defensive back can't really get in position to challenge the pass and brought it in. It was pretty much an easy pitch and catch for Dak Prescott. So they were looking good. Also, number 72 stood out for me. I can't remember who this guy is either, but if you were to look at the practice film, it's number 72. You can hit Google, find out who it is. But he had a nice rush off the edge. Micah Parsons, like I said, don't normally like to talk about the veterans here because, again, no shit, Sherlock. Micah Parsons is awesome. Check the tape. We know this. But there was a few times today where he would have sacked Dak Prescott on some of these team drills if it was a live, action situation. It was pretty live as far as getting to attack the offensive tackle, but it wasn't necessarily live where you could hit the quarterback. So he was able to get some pressure there. Looked really, really good today. Looked really, really stout. So I'm excited. It's game week. We'll get to see some of the younger guys this week against the Rams in practice on Thursday. We'll also get to see some of the younger guys in the game against the Rams here on Sunday. I do like that this first preseason game is on a Sunday. It's going to give a lot of the younger guys a little bit of, a little bit of knowledge as to how the season will work. The NFL is different than the college football, so getting a regular week of practice and then getting into a Sunday football game is a lot different than getting into a Saturday football game. This is their first time doing this, so it's nice that in the very first action they're going to see, they're going to get to kind of see how a typical week of practice goes before they get into the game. But that's all I got for you today. Like the video, subscribe if you want to. If there's anything that you want me to cover specifically, you can leave that below in the comments. But this has been Jay Mill, Jay Miller if you like. Knockers on the bottom. Peace.